Okay, so Edward, thank you for joining. This is another episode of the podcast, Happy Accidents. And Edward, if you could introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, well, my name is Eduwer Camacaro. I'm from Venezuela. I'm living right now in Ecuador, like since 6 years ago now. I am a software developer, working with for Little Horse. It's a company we build new technologies. It's kind of exciting that we are building there. Um, and yeah, that pretty much my my background.
Cool, cool. Okay, Edward. So could you tell me a little bit about how long you've been in Ecuador and where you've lived in your time here?
Okay, now I live I've been here in Ecuador 6 year. Uh, I live before, right now live in Quito. But before here, I live in Ambato. It's a nearby city to Quito. It's a small town. It's not that big, but it has many beauties, so many beauties and uh, kind of nature and people is so warm. Um, it was, it is a nice place to live. I consider Ambato is a nice place to live. Yeah.
Hmm,
Here in Quito, it's more like uh, more people and there are more traffic as well. But I kind of enjoy living here in Ecuador right now in both cities, yeah, in Ambato and Quito.
okay, cool, man. Cool. So, which would you say you like the most?
Oh,
'Cause
for living, I like
yeah.
Ambato for living. To live, I definitely Ambato. Um, as I mentioned, it's a small town, but it's very calm. It's not that um, many people, but we have there. Ambato has some nice place to enjoy nature, and also you have some business centers and something like that, right? You kind of have almost everything in Ambato, but here in Iquitos you have more option, right?
Hmm.
But for living, I will say that Ambato is a good place to live. Yeah.
Okay, cool, cool. And so, Edward, what are your hobbies? What are your passions? What are you crazy about?
Okay, so I enjoy spending my time traveling. Travel, so knowing a new place, enjoying nature, walking, driving so for a random place. That's one of my favorite thing. Another thing is enjoy a good book. I mostly enjoy a good book, like an entire afternoon reading and all of stuff, right?
Hmm.
I'm not a cinema guy. I mean, I don't like cinema as much. There are some movies that call my attention. Yeah, but it's not very frequent, you know.
Okay, gotcha, gotcha. Um, so Edward, when you're not traveling, when you're not working, how do you spend your weekends?
Oh, maybe some uh cleaning my house
Oh, so normal
or
stuff.
yeah, normal stuff.
Right, right.
Or yeah,
Gotcha.
doing laundry. Um but also reading. Um yeah, and that's all. Yeah, that's pretty much
Okay.
very common, yeah.
Okay, so Edward, how are Ecuadorians and Venezuelans similar and how are they different? Let's do a little comparison.
Oh, okay. So I think here in Ecuador, as well in Venezuela, people are very um how can I describe this? Uh, I cannot, I will not to say, will not to say like noisy. It's more like we are more vital. I mean, people, right?
Animated.
Animated people, right? It's kind of that, right? You see, like uh, some people in on the street, like um, more vital or animated, right? Um, I think that's common in Venezuela. Something that is different in Venezuela, I think is people are more like open to talk with other people. I mean, with random people on the street, right? I'm not saying that this is not happen. This not happen here in Ecuador, but it's more uncommon. It's more uncommon, right? But in Venezuela, it's more common. You see people like interacting with random people at the bank. When in the line, when you are waiting in the bank, your people like talking with each other, right?
Mm.
I'm that kind of
So
guy as
more
well.
more outgoing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm that. I am more like that. I mean, I
Mm.
like to talk with I don't know, with people when we are
Mm.
waiting and somewhere, right? Just
Right.
random topics
Yeah.
and just stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. So those are two ways that Ecuadorians and Venezuelans are different. How are they similar?
Well, they're similar because they are these animated people. We are animated, right?
Oh, so
We
both.
are, yeah,
Both.
we
Gotcha.
are
Gotcha. I
exact.
misunderstood. My
Yeah.
apologies. Okay, so Edward, I got a list of questions here that I'd like to
Okay.
go through with you. So now that we've gotten through the easy part of the conversation about you and where you live, let's get to the more difficult questions. So, um, could you describe and compare the different types of jobs that exist in the tech industry? You, for example, are a programmer. How does that compare to other jobs within the tech industry? And what are the pros and cons of being a programmer?
Okay, the different roles, you mentioned roles or type of technology roles,
Right.
right?
Well, different types of jobs within the tech sector.
Oh, that's
For
a
example, you're a programmer, you have project managers, you have people who are cybersecurity experts, people who work in different fields of tech.
Yeah, and also there are some expert who analyze the system and specific systems, and also engage with business people to understand a specific problem, and then we can translate that into a solution using software or not, maybe not.
Right.
Um, so as you mentioned, yeah, we have also developers, people that execute this task like for um, infrastructure, like deploying things in making it application available or service available to the external world. Those are kind of difficult roles that we have in technology. Um, and also we have the developer, right? The developer we are it's kind of difficult here because you need to understand very well um, the problem before implementing a solution. Developers usually struggle with this, trying to understand first the problem and then implement the solution. Uh, Usually, I saw some people trying to solve the problem without understanding very well the problem, right?
Mm.
Um, so that's something that is difficult here in developer in the developer world. Yeah,
Okay. So what are some pros and cons of your job? Well, not your specific job, but working as a developer.
I think
For
it's
for
one of
people who don't know a lot about your job.
I think one of the biggest pros that we have here is the fact that you can push your imagination to the maximum. Always,
Mm.
you always need to use your imagination, your creativity. I think this is more like an art. It's my
Oh,
personal
wow.
opinion. It's my personal
Wow.
opinion because if you ask someone to solve a specific problem using I don't know, a solution of build a solution with software, if you ask 10 people to solve a specific problem, you are going to have 10 different implementation for that solution. And the 10 different implementation are going to solve the problem, right? Problem, my
Oh.
problem. But each one of them are going to be different from each other, right?
Well, that's
So
cool.
yeah, so um, there are some solution that will have this kind of more creativity than the others as well, right? So I think um, as I see this, we are very close to be an art, like an art, because you need to push your imagination, your creativity to the maximum. So that's one of the biggest pros.
Okay.
Um, the cons, I think I would like to highlight the fact that you are using your imagination, creativity. Um, um, you're like kind of it's hard to disconnect from work when you are
Hmm.
in this, right? So you end up like spending all the time in your day to day thinking on a specific about a specific problem. So it's I'm
Hmm.
not saying that any developer every developer has the same exact problem. I'm saying that it's hard to disconnect. So yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So when you cannot manage that, you are going to struggle trying to find a balance between your personal life and work life. You know, it's like something like that.
And how do you find that balance? What strategy do you deploy to manage work and life?
Yeah. In my case, I think is I really enjoy reading a good book, as I mentioned before, about technology. Um, uh, this is kind of um one of the uh, my favorite thing when I do in my free time. Uh, but I don't consider this as a to be part of my job. Instead, it's
Okay.
just like trying to learn something else, right?
Mm,
Something new. But it is related to my profession, but I don't consider to be like a part of my job, right?
mm,
Um, so I spend many hours reading books or reading stuff or learning stuff from my profession, but I don't consider it to be my related to my job. So um, for me, hard to find this balance, right? Because of this, I don't see where my job ends. I
mm.
don't see this boundary, right? So it is hard. It's something that I struggle and usually find problem with this. Yeah.
Okay. And you're not the first person that has told me that. I have
Really?
other friends and students who are uh, developers, and they tell me the same thing. And it seems very challenging. It seems like if you don't control this aspect of the job, it can have really negative impacts, especially on your mental health. Um, One aspect that I don't like about being a developer is that it's sedentary. I wish that there was a way that people could be developing while they're moving. Like maybe while you're walking or while you're hiking in the mountains or something, you could simultaneously develop. I just don't like how it's static. I feel like it's not good for your back. It's not good for your legs. Edward, my back hurts every day because I spend hours in front of the computer. What about you?
Yeah, mine as well. I have this problem with my back as well. Like it is because of this. Yeah. I think that we should the 8 hour or 10 hour or whatever hour you spend in front of the computer, you need to pay back that to your body, right?
Right,
Doing
right.
something else, it's something that you need to pay back. So you don't pay back, it's going to increase the interest for that
Hmm.
because it kind of a loan, loan, right?
Yes, it
You need to
is.
pay that. You need to pay back that to your body.
Right.
Um, so we need to be aware of that. Understand that yeah, unfortunately, there is no way, at least as far I understand, I know, there is no way you can program while you are hiking or I
Right,
don't know,
right,
climbing a mountain. I mean, you
right,
can
right. The
put a
interface
desk
doesn't
in a
exist.
mountain. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
you can put
yeah,
a desk into a mountain, but the problem is going to be the same, right? You are going to be static.
right.
Um,
I wish there was a way that you could instead of interfacing with your hands typing, maybe that you could interface like voice command, or with Neuralink, maybe if you have a Neuralink, you can just in your thoughts and in your mind code while you're walking and you don't need to use your hands. But, you know, it's a dream.
Yeah,
It's not a reality.
for sure, it's not a reality right now. I think we are closer right now because now we have in technology we have some AI support. One of the examples is GitHub Copilot. It's like a copilot that you have while you are programming. Like, they're just suggesting things where you're while you are writing the solution, right? It's not like totally controlled by the AI. It's just like a hint and suggestion that this
Mm.
tool provides, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, we are closer to the dream. I believe at some point maybe we can uh, reach that. Um, yeah.
Okay. So let's move to the next question here, Edward. So let's talk a little about here. So I'd like to talk to you about your immigration experience. Okay, this is on my list. I have wanted to interview a person who has immigrated and just ask them different questions about this. My mother immigrated to the United States, so I have insight into immigration. I also lived in Ecuador as an immigrant for 10 plus years. So I have some, personal experience as an immigrant, but I'm sure that my experience was probably different from yours. So I'd like to ask you, Edward, about your immigration experience. Now, without saying anything that could negatively affect you, we obviously understand the situation, but can you give us just an idea of why you decided to leave and when you decided to leave and what you had to do in order to leave? What was that process like?
Okay. Nice. Back in Venezuela, I worked for a company, for a hospital company, private hospital. Was as a developer, as a Java developer. It was a kind of really good experience for me work at that company because we solved a lot of problems related to the healthcare. And I learned a lot about healthcare and how these patients are treatments and stuff like that, right? I really enjoy working at that company. And also I pushed that was my first maybe second professional experience back in Venezuela. I got a good salary comparing that to to the market at that moment in Venezuela. Back in Venezuela in that time was like 2016,
Mm-hmm.
2016, 2016 was 2017. Yeah. Um, it was a very bad situation in Venezuela. Current Well, still it is still going right that situation, um, in based in the economy for the country, right? Um, but comparing my salary with other salary in the market uh, it was like much higher, like 10 times much higher, right? But even though that salary was not a good, was not enough to tackle this situation or this bad situation in the economy, imagine that the other people, right? That the one that like the other salary, it was worst. But one of the worst thing that I experienced was like the lack of food in the stores. There was no food in the store. Even you can have you could have the money, but you cannot buy it because there is
Yeah.
no food. There was no food in the store.
So, Edward, can we talk about that? Because I have not ever experienced that. And for me, that would be
Sure.
shocking, right? Experiencing that would be shocking and scary. I mean, was that your whole life growing up in Venezuela, or was it different when you were a kid? Has it progressively gotten worse? I mean, help me understand that.
It was kind of progressively getting worse every year. I mean, since I was a kid, there was no this and there was food everywhere, right? But there are some years that like there is no, for example, sugar. You cannot buy sugar because there's no sugar, right? You cannot buy sugar, so you need to find a solution. I don't know. Stop. So you cannot buy sugar, so you don't eat sugar or something with sugar, right? But um, then suddenly sugar is still in there are sugar in the store, so you can buy sugar, but then I don't know, you cannot find, for example, um, other type of food or something, right? But then in the next year was like, okay, now there are 10 items that are missing in our store, so there's no possible.
Oh,
And the next year
gotcha.
we're like, okay, we don't have this in our store. And then we're like, okay, we don't have nothing. We have nothing in our store. You cannot buy
Wow.
nothing. Yeah, it was kind
So
of
so
like
it got worse.
yeah,
Okay.
it got
Okay.
worse. And then it was very sad because you cannot buy something for dinner because there was no food. There were some irregular markets, like kind of black market for food, but it was more like a kind of illegal. It was kind of illegal. You are paying something that is trying to smuggle this into the
Right.
country, and was not totally legal, right?
So can you give the viewers an idea of how much, let's say, I don't know if there are like McDonald's or like, I don't know what you have in Venezuela, but can you give us some context so we can understand the price of food? How much was a carton of eggs? How much was a liter or gallon of milk? I mean, give us some indication.
Okay. Well, but by that time, in Venezuela, we didn't have a reference to US dollars, so I don't have a reference to convert that moment
Mm,
into US dollars. So, but let's imagine that eggs you can buy this eggs like for 30 uh, bolivares. It was bolivares,
mm-hmm,
but it was like the official price, right? The official price for eggs was like 30 bolivares, right? But in the market, in the black market, you can find like I don't know, 200 bolivares or 300, even 300 bolivares, right? It was kind of stupid that you
whoa.
need to pay. Yeah,
So a lot more expensive.
a lot. It was stupid a lot. I mean, even even with the higher salary that you have, you are going to you will have bad time or bad moment to buy that item. It's like was kind of difficult to buy it, and expensive, very expensive. So,
Wow.
because it was the only egg that was in the country. Imagine that was the only egg in the country. So people will sell it like whatever they want because it was the only option that we have, right?
Mm,
Um, yeah. As you probably know, in Venezuela we love arepas, right? And that's
right,
one of
right.
the that's one of the main items in our day-to-day diet, right? Um, but suddenly we didn't have the main ingredient that is this,
Ooh.
yeah, that was to build or to create an arepa, to make arepas. Um, but yeah, it wasn't okay. There is no option to to make arepas, so you need to find another option. So the option was like you need to people trying to use build this um, ingredient
Mm-hmm.
by their uh, trying to process everything by hand and all of the stuff, right? And one of the there were some ingredients for that process that was kind of that were like um toxic for human body, right? It was toxic, yeah. And still because they were using that um um So it was dangerous because there were no process or someone watching or supervising that process to build
Mm,
that ingredient. But even though it was the only option or the 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 only possible to make an arepa, the only possible option was like that to make an arepa was
mm,
like that. Yeah.
okay. Okay. So Edward, so you worked at within, you know, this field of medical technology and so tell me a little bit about, so why you decided to leave and how the process of leaving was.
Yeah, then when there is no food in my table, in my family table, it was okay. Yeah, I need to leave the country. I don't know. I need to find something in on the internet, and a job position that which I can apply, and like that, right? And then I started thinking on Ecuador because Ecuador was one of the countries that here in South America was like a more calm, everything was chill. There's no, I mean, it was,
Was.
everything was chill. I mean, we have a perfect economy here. Okay, let's apply to Ecuador. It seems a very good country to live. Um, and then I apply for a company, and then I got accepted for this position here in Ecuador, and then the this company offered to bring me here in Ecuador. They pay my travel expense and all that stuff. So, um, yeah, and then that was my first time in Ecuador. Yeah, that's how I decided to move because it was because the situation back in Venezuela was very bad. Before that, I was not considering to move to another country. It was more like I didn't thought about it. Yeah, before that.
Okay. So you first lived in Ambato when you moved to Ecuador. Did you have a job immediately when you arrived?
Yeah, this company which accepted me for the position,
Hmm.
um, I arrived to Ambato and I started working the next day. The next day
Oh,
was like,
wow.
I mean, of course, I need to I I needed to to do some paperwork related to my work permission, but I started working like the next day. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So Edward, what was your describe your feelings and describe what you were thinking the first time you received your first Ecuadorian paycheck and you went to the market or supermarket and you had every possible fruit, vegetable, meat, fish, seafood. What was that feeling like? What was that? Describe that. I mean, what were you shocked? Were you angry at how you suffered in Venezuela? Tell me what you experienced.
Yeah, my first thought was like, okay, it's incredible how destroyed is the country infrastructure back in Venezuela. It's incredible how destroyed it is because it's so different. I went to this Mega Maxi or Super Maxi that there are a lot of things there, right? You can buy everything there, um, and everything in the country here in Ecuador was like everything works. I mean, your public service works, and I mean, but in Venezuela was like no, it's kind of everything is destroyed. So at first it was like I cannot believe that Venezuela is that destroyed. They destroyed Venezuela like that.
So
Yeah,
you
that
felt
was my
maybe a little
first
bit of indignation.
indignation. That's the word. Yeah,
Just
indignation
kind of like,
because
how is it possible that in Venezuela we don't have this? Yeah, 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 yeah.
exactly.
So, can
I,
you tell me what was the first big meal that you had in Ecuador? The first time that you just said, "Man, I'm going to eat like a king. I have money. I'm going to eat until my body physically hurts."
Okay, so first I'm not that guy or like for example for I'm more cautious because my first reaction when I arrived to Ecuador was like, okay, you need to save money. because you are in another country. Your family have no option to provide any help. Even if
Mm,
they want, you don't have an option. You are by your own. So it was more like that, right? At
mm.
one moment. So first I started trying some um encebollados, and then this kind of fantasy food that we have here in Ecuador.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that was
And luckily it's very cheap.
yeah, locally it's very cheap. You can afford that. I was able to afford that. Um, it, um, it was my reaction was like, okay, I need to eat like this every day. Yeah.
So, Edward, help me understand why some Venezuelans, for me, it's very clear why people leave Venezuela. Okay, because not because they don't love their home, not because they want to abandon their families, but because the situation is unlivable. They don't have access to quality medicine, quality food, health care, basic infrastructure. So I get it. My question is, why do some Venezuelans choose to go to North America and Canada, and others choose to stay in Central or South America?
Well, here in South America, as you mentioned, in many countries here in South America, we have this similar problem, right? Um, some problem with the healthcare, public healthcare, um, some problem with the like we have right now in Ecuador with the electricity on this public service. Uh, but in my case, I'm gonna talk in my case. I think Ecuador can analyzing the history of Ecuador. They always
Uh-huh.
overcome this situation very well. So it's kind of suffering right now. But I have faith that they at some point they will overcome this situation. And I'm glad that I can be part of this solution.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, as a taxpayer or something that I can provide to this country that give me for me a lot as well, right? Um,
Mm.
so I believe that at some point we are going to overcome this situation here in Ecuador. That's
Okay.
my feeling right now. Um, I don't know.
But why did you choose Ecuador over, you know, Canada,
I
a
rather
place
not.
that doesn't have, narco problems and stuff?
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, I got your point. I mean, why not choose a country that already solves those problems?
Right, right, right. I mean, I'm not saying that Canada's better than Ecuador. I'm simply saying they have solved certain problems that haven't been solved in Ecuador.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I mean, it's not. I'd rather not moving like kind of not moving everywhere. Like I just want to stay in one single place. That's something that I want, right? I don't want to pass for this situation again. I mean, I am still an immigrant, right? But I don't want to pass for this situation again to kind of start from zero and stuff like that. I kind of I can
I
I
get
like.
that, but I guess my question is, when you were in Venezuela, what made you choose
Oh,
Ecuador
okay.
over another country? Like, I understand now why you say this, but I mean, what impacted your original decision?
Um. Well, it's not easy to migrate to North America. Well, that's one of the reasons because
Well,
you
it
should.
wasn't easy then, but
No,
now with
it's
our good friend Joe Biden, it's very easy, Edward.
no, no, no. But it is easy, but it's not safe. And some people that understand that they're not going to do that, right? Because you are
Right,
going to be
right.
exposed to many dangerous people, um, so many dangerous situations that I'm not going to be exposed, or neither my family are going to be exposed to that situation. So that's one of the main reasons. We are not going to be exposed to that. Even is that easy because if you made it I know that if you made it to the border to the United States, you are in the United States. You can cross the border, as far as I understand, right from the news.
Yeah,
But I'm
yeah.
not willing to do that because because of this, right? And as I mentioned before in our previous conversation, like it's kind of sad how the U.S. government is allowing this, even
Mm,
knowing that the dangerous thing that is happening in the middle of that travel for the immigrants, right? It's kind of
hmm.
sad. Yeah, it's sad, very sad.
It is, and just to follow up on that, Edward, and to give the audience some context to what you're talking about, we had previously spoken about how the U.S. and Canadian governments should um, stop illegal immigration because when they allow illegal immigration, it 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 provokes people to risk their lives. It promotes this idea that it's easy to come to the United States, and many people risk their lives. But Edward, um, just talking about this again, is there any advice that you would give uh, a Venezuelan who is right now in Venezuela and considering leaving? What would you say to a person in Venezuela considering leaving?
I mean, if your situation, I understand the situation there because I was in that, and my family still live in Venezuela, right? Um, you need to analyze what you want in the future, what is the correct thing for your future, and also if you have family or children or something like that, you need to analyze and consider that. Not only because you are going to leave your country and go to a country that like has a higher rate or wage, rate wage. Um, not only consider that. You need to consider everything in your future. Right? Is this the correct thing for me? Is this not the correct place to be? Is there an only other option that I can consider? Stuff like that. You need to think about it very carefully because the decision that you made in that moment is going to affect your entire life. So even if you come back to your country, you still have um, your life or your future is totally influenced by that decision. So you need to think very well about what you are doing right there. So
Gotcha.
I'm not saying that judging people that leave the country or going to the United States or Canada or something like that, um, because probably they might have good reason, right? But I,
Hmm.
I I I think they need to be very careful, think very careful what they want and stuff like that. Not only the personal taking into account the personal finance. It's more
Hmm.
like thinking your future
Right, right. Long term, what you want.
long term.
Cool, man. So, final question about immigration, Edward. Do you regret your decision to leave Venezuela?
No, I do it again. I mean, um, even knowing the future, I do it
Right.
again. I do it again. I think it was
Wow.
kind of thinking as an immigrant, is it's very good how you can mix your reality that you live in your country and how your race and your parents raise you and stuff like that and your culture and you mix that with other perspective of the world because Ecuadorian and Venezuela have this different perspective. Of course, went through different historical moments. So I think that kind of mix was very good that I really enjoyed. I have good friends here in Ecuador where we mix this point of view. I saw another reality, and now I feel my mind is more diverse and it's
Hmm.
something that I'm very grateful.
Cool, man. I love it. I love it. I was hoping you would say that, and I was hoping you wouldn't say yes. I regret it. Okay, cool. So, talk about something that I think is really, really important to talk about, Edward. And we're going to just wrap up with this topic. But
Okay.
how do you think that colonialism or the colonial era impacted Latin America?
Oh, okay. Tough topic.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, I think I believe the um this colonial era impacted Latin America in a way that now we are kind of expecting someone in power, right? Everywhere, if you see in every country or most of the country here in this region, we are always expecting someone to be in power to save us from something, from danger or something like that. You don't. I think I consider that you don't see that in other region, right? So maybe it can be related to this colonial area, right? So I think it's causing a lot of pain in here in this region because of the president, because we are always trying to get to try to create bill or big state that can save us from evil. You can save us
Hmm.
from evil.
And
There are
solve
some,
our problems.
yeah, and solve our problem. There are good signals from Argentina with Javier Milei trying to decrease this power from the state and so stuff like that, right? Um, but I think here, at least in Venezuela, Ecuador, and Colombia, Peru, we are still have that mentality. We need to avoid that, right? Destroy that mentality, and I think it's related to this colonialism area.
Okay, cool, cool. Uh, Edward, drug trafficking is one of the biggest problems in the Americas and the world. The illegal drug trade is in the billions if we talk about, the value. In in consumer countries, the consequences are crime, addiction, homelessness, disruption of economic activities, destruction of family. In South and Central America, in areas of production, the consequences are violence and political corruption. Edward, what do you think the solution for this problem is? I mean, this is a massive problem that costs every government in the Americas billions of dollars to fight, or millions to combat each year. What's the solution in your view?
I think the solution is to fight back, fight harder, trying to avoid or fight also the corruption in your security force. I thought there are some other option like legalization. I don't
What
think
do you
that's an
think
option.
about that? You
I,
don't
I
think
don't
that's an option?
I don't think that's an option because that's going to increase the problem in the consumer side.
Right.
Because people it's like a very bad for our health, and it's something that your mind is not totally controlling that situation once you are in drugs, it's
Well,
kind of
let's
hard.
talk about that though, Edward. I mean, why do you believe that something like alcohol or tobacco or vapes or pornography or other addictive things should be legal, but drugs shouldn't?
I think they are more difficult to quit. I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, I'm not I haven't experienced this drugs or alcoholism situation, but um I believe that drugs is harder to quit than alcoholism. I don't know, maybe. Uh,
Do you
but
think there are
that's
more drug addicts in the world or alcoholics?
there are more drug addicts that are harder to quit. I mean, that's something not in quantity. It's more like it's hard, really hard to quit from drugs than
Okay, so you're
alcohol.
saying drugs are more addictive.
Yeah,
Okay, but why does that mean they should be illegal? I mean, perhaps you're right. Perhaps drugs are more addictive than alcohol, but why should that impact the legal status of cocaine? Let's say cocaine, for example. Why is alcohol permitted? Coffee is permitted. Many addictive things are permitted in society. Tobacco, cigarettes. Prostitution is legal in Ecuador, but cocaine is not. I mean, I'm trying to
Yeah.
understand that. So,
And
what is
also,
your view?
I think one point is the fact that um, also drugs are cause more damage in your body once you even you try it for one time. Your
Is that
organism,
true?
if you try, for example, alcohol for the first time, I mean, your body is going to experience like these intoxication issues and other stuff. But I believe, at least I consider drugs to be more eh, to cause more damage in your body once you try it the first time. Well, at least that's something that I choose to believe.
Right. I think I disagree, but neither of us are medical doctors,
Mhm.
right? So we really don't know. But
That's a really good point. I mean, good question. I mean, who's more dangerous?
I mean,
Alcohol?
I think alcohol is more dangerous.
Once you try for the first time. Imagine that you are someone that never tried alcohol, right? And you, I don't know, drink a beer or like
Yeah.
10 beers, and then what happened
You
with your
do
body at that
anything.
point?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, it
but
shuts down. Your body shuts down, literally.
and
So
then what happened
that's
and
yeah.
compare when you try drugs for the first time, like
Right. So
cocaine
that's my
versus.
point, right? If you try cocaine and you try alcohol and you try a large quantity the first time, I think the effects of alcohol are more damaging than cocaine.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, man. Alcohol literally shuts your body down to the point where you can't see, you can't walk, you can't make decisions. You literally are unconscious on the floor. That's
You
how
know the same
powerful alcohol
you know
is.
the same with cocaine?
No, 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 no. Cocaine is a stimulant. Alcohol is
Mhm.
a depressant. So alcohol affects your nervous system, depressing your nervous system, slowing your heart rate. Cocaine stimulates your heart rate and gives you energy. It's a stimulant. So
Okay.
you definitely don't go unconscious. The side effects of a large dose of cocaine would be paranoia, accelerated heart rate, and possible tachycardia. But you can still see and walk and move. With alcohol, you can't do those things. It's game over with alcohol. But I mean, it's a little bit irrelevant how dangerous it is the first time you use it. I think it's more important to look at, daily use or frequent use. Which one is more damaging with frequent use? And I mean, Edward, I'm not arguing that cocaine is better than alcohol. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying if alcohol's legal, why not cocaine? Why
Yeah.
do when we started this conversation, you said we need to fight harder against cartels. That means more money, more tax money. That means more violence. That I don't see that fighting narcos is a useful use of public resources. I have not seen any positive results on the war against drugs. I haven't seen that. I mean, and in my life, the drug crisis has gotten in the 37 years that I have been on this planet, the drug crisis
Mhm.
has gotten worse, not better,
Mhm.
right? And so, what are we supposed to give more money each year? And what? I mean, there's no guarantee. So for me, prohibition doesn't work. I don't think that the role of the government should be to tell you what you can do with your body. It's your body. That's freedom. It's as long as you're not hurting another person or hurting society, I don't think the government should tell you what you can do with your body. If you want to consume cocaine and alcohol, hey, you're an adult. That's your right as a human being, right? You can say, I want to stay in bed all day. I don't think it's the way to live. I don't think it's a good idea, but that's your right as a free human being. I think part of freedom is the freedom to self-destruct. That's one
Hmm.
of the risks that comes with freedom. That's one of the responsibilities that comes with freedom. But I don't understand why the government says it's okay for you to consume sugar and fat, but not cocaine. More people die from diabetes
Hmm.
related to sugar than people who die from cocaine addiction. So if we're looking at statistics of deaths, uh, sugar and fat, dietary fat that people eat, cause a lot more deaths in terms of heart disease and diabetes than alcohol and cocaine combined. So for
Yeah.
me, the argument that drugs are bad for your health and alcohol is bad for your health, yeah, it's true, but sugar's a lot worse, and sugar's not illegal. So that's not a good enough argument for me. For me, the violence is the problem. When things are illegal, it doesn't matter what it is. You could make socks illegal, Edward.
Hmm.
You could say tomorrow socks are illegal. That doesn't mean that people are going to stop using and wearing socks. You simply made a decision that's economic. Now you made socks a black market product. And what happens when something becomes black market? The price increases, the
Right.
quality decreases, and violent organizations take control of that market. So
Hmm.
I don't see a pro illegalization. I just don't see it. And I believe that many of these laws that make drugs illegal are laws that are based on morals rather than really thinking what's best and what's worst for society. Is it better to have people who are addicted to drugs or people who are addicted to drugs and violent narco groups? In both cases, you're going to have people addicted to drugs.
Hmm.
The difference is with one, if you legitimize drug industry, you're eliminating the narcos and the mafia. So for me, that's the advantage. You know, I could be wrong,
Yeah, those are good points, yeah.
but listen, Edward, who knows, man?
Who knows?
I
Exactly.
could be completely wrong. I mean, this is just my opinion. But Edward, we'll stop there, man. I just want to say thank you for joining, and I hope that you allow me to interview you again and we can get into some other deeper topics. Today's interview was really to get to know you, to give the audience a chance to know you, to get some of your experience as an immigrant and get some of your views on some of the world's, developing problems. So thank you for joining,
Thank
Edward.
you.
Awesome, man. Well, Edward, that's it, man. I'll see you next time and have a great evening.
Bye. Thank you.
All right, man. Bye bye.
Bye. Should we start recording here?